Right. So this is the second video of information processing theory chapter, and we'll try to finish this, complete this chapter in this reading. So we are going to go on to the next part, which is perception. So perception, as is called, trying to recognize a pattern that we might found in what we are learning, or what we found, or what is observed, or what is received by our senses, right? And of course our senses receive information from our environment, from our surrounding, right? So as we trying to, or as our senses are trying to find a pattern, so one theory is very important, and it has tried to explain how we do it. So that theory is called Gestalt theory. So Gestalt, it has come from Germany. That's why it is, the word Gestalt is a German word which means form, figure, shape, or configuration, right? According to these psychologists, so they were also kind of experimental psychology, because they looked at how people see things differently, and how they make sense of what they are seeing, or maybe how they put different things together, right, which is forming a certain pattern. Or then they say that objects or events, they are viewed as organized wholes. So we look at when we're looking at in the next slides, couple of slides. So basic organization involves a figure, what one that we are viewing, or that we our senses is looking at, or maybe hearing. So against a ground or the background. So what is meaningful is the configuration, not the individual parts. So they are saying that it is how different things are put together. We will see it in the next slide. So meaningful perception and insight occur only through conscious awareness. So we are consciously engaged as we are trying to recognize a certain pattern in what we are, in the form that we see, the shape, or the figure, or the configuration. Now, there are certain, as you can see, according to Gestalt theory, this this is the whole actually, and this is different from this whole is different from these three parts of it. Now, these three parts are part of this whole. But if someone is giving you these kind of semi-circle line, then circle and two dots, so I wonder if you can see this particular shape. So that's what they say. The whole is meaningful and loses meaning when it is reduced to individual components. So this is meaningful as compared to these, right? Now, so they have given few principles of organization of perception. So one of them is continuation. That's interesting one. I wonder if you can see. So one of the principles is continuation. So when I is compelled to move through an object and continue to another object. So continuation, right? For example, if you look at these two, let's begin with Amazon, because these days online shopping is becoming very common. So Amazon, see, I wonder if you have noticed this line which goes from A to Z. Now this line, that's, I don't know whether you see this A and Z. So that means Amazon sells everything from A to Z. So A to Z mean everything. A is the first letter of alphabet, English alphabets, and Z is the last. So A to Z. So everything is sold on Amazon, on this platform. So everything is available on this platform. Then this is ProQuest. It's a what we call platform where different journals, books are found and sold and read. People come and read it and buy it. Now, as you can see here, this is not just the word, this is also this particular. Now, if you look at this part, this circle, it looks as a globe, right? And this bird, kind of bird, is this cube, but they have made this shape into a kind of bird. And this is where the bird is going through this. And if you want to go through the bird, if you want to learn everything about the bird, then this is the place to come to. So that's interesting. So continuation. So that's what we are trying to see when we are reading something, when we are paying attention to. So we are actually compelled to view or to move through an object and continue to another object, right? A to Z, yeah? Quest. So that's what people who design these logos, they actually pay attention to these particular ideas. And this is very clever. Just by drawing line, it's a clever idea to inform readers or the people that everything is sold in A to Z, A to Z, and this it goes Z is here, A to Z. Right? So the next is closure. So closure is people fill in incomplete patterns or experiences from their subconscious. Now, I'm sure you remember this. Now, everyone, when they say it's panda, well, I wonder if there is anything over here. There is no line here. There's blank space. It is left. There is nothing here. So either there is certain black pattern and something is not colored at all. But we presume it's a panda. So that is closure. So we are filling in information from our subconscious. And then the same, look at this one. By looking at this particular shape, it looks as this is a bulb. But there is no bulb here. They have only put this screw here. So that's closure. Now this, when we look at this one, we think, oh, it's a circle, but these lines are missing, right? So closure. Now this one, the word perception. So though E is missing, but we still be able to see or read that this is perception. The same is with this word. We still be able to read wash, though O is extra there, right? So that is what we call closure. So we are trying to fill in information or incomplete information when we see something, when we hear something. Now, figure of ground relation. You might have seen a lot of things, a lot of these images. Can you identify what it is, right? Can you find something here? Right? What image is this? Right? So that is what we call figure ground relation. So maybe divided into a figure against a background. So there is a figure and there is a background. Now you might say the background is here white, or you might say the background is black. Same thing here, white or black, white or black. So such salient features such as size, shape, color, and pitch distinguish a figure from its background. Right? So when figure and ground are ambiguous, perceivers may alternatively organize the sensory experience one way and then another. So if it is very clear, we can identify, okay, this is, for example, if we look at this one, these lines tell us this could be a vase, right? But it's up to the person who is viewing it. The person might say, no, it's not a vase, it's something else. It might be a cube, right? Now this one, they're saying, can you see an old lady or a young lady? So you have to see whether you can identify an old lady in this picture, or do you see, or whether you see a young lady in this picture. Same thing is here, right? So that is what they're saying, figure ground relationship. So we see something, and then we try to see whether something is there in the background or something is there in the foreground, right? And we do it by through the colors that we see there. The other similar feature is a common direction. So that is found in maths and all that. So I'm just giving you examples of these maths and English. For example, if you look at this one, 2, 4, 6, 8, dash, blank, 12, 14, blank, 18, 20. So now I'm sure you are able to identify the missing number here. So you can see either these are multiples of 2, or that could be 2 times table. Both are same. So that means 8, 10, 12, 14. So you are adding 2 each time, right? Or if you look at this one, the second one, this is alphabet. So there is a group here, A. So what is going to be next? A, C, E, G, I. So what is going to be next here, right? So that is, if you look at A, B, C. So one is B is missing, C, D. So it is alternate alphabet. So that's why I, J. So the next word should be K here. So that is what we call common direction. So by looking at maths, so we do that. And this is there in a lot of IQ questions as well, where they ask you whether they assess whether you can find a certain pattern. The similarity, so these elements similar in aspects such as size or color, and they are perceived as belonging together. Now, when you look at this picture, A and B, I do not know whether, I'm sure you will be able to recall or see that this is an X. If you draw these here, this is an X. Or you might see another picture, which is, this is a shape here, and one fir tree is there, right? So that is coniferous trees here. And or this one, you might say that these trees are actually surrounded by all the fir trees. So that is, or in this one, you might say, okay, there is a certain pattern of, there are 6 short lines and 6 long lines. If the short line is of 1 centimeter, the long line is of 2 centimeter, then you might say there are 6 1 centimeter lines and 6 2 centimeter lines, right? So you might find that this particular color is actually surrounded by the other colors, as you can see here in this one, right? This is the same here, so you might find a similarity. This is here, then so you could find a similarity in the images. Proximity, with proximity is closeness. So when we come to proximity, we are saying that perceptual field or perception field that is there in front of us, they are viewed as belonging together according to their closeness to one another in space or time. For example, if you look at picture A and picture B, you see that there are 2 gentlemen and there is a table and there is some kind of object on the table. But in picture A, we see both the men, see the standing posture is the same in both the cases. But in picture A, they are standing close to each other. So we presume that they are talking to each other. And they might be friends, right? So their relation is more important than this table. So they are close to each other. So we are going to focus on this particular thing. Now, if you look at picture B, this person is close to this table now. So we are going to create a connection between the man and the table. So we are going to say, okay, this is an office and the person is speaking to another one regarding, so there might be an office meeting or they are talking or speaking, sharing something, right? So when we see things and we try to conceive or we're trying to understand what that means, so we try to group things together which are close to each other. And from there, we create a perception. We organize our perception. Right. The simplicity is another here. So people organize their perceptual fields in simple, regular features and attempt to form good gestalts, or also called pregnance. Meaningfulness. So, for example, if you look at this picture in this one, so one geometrical pattern overlapping another one, right? The big and the small, rather than several irregular shaped geometric patterns, right? So you might see that there is one geometric pattern overlapping another, but you may not see that there are several irregular shaped geometric patterns. You may not see, okay, this is one geometric pattern, this is another geometric irregular, right? Not regular, irregular. This one is, then this is another, right? This is another pattern. This is another pattern. So this is, but we are going to look at this. We are going to see this. This is one geometric pattern, and this one is another geometric pattern, and that is what we call meaningful or precise perception or pregnance. Then the next one is sensory registers. As we're receiving information through our senses, so one of the sensory registers is iconic. Icon, when we look at icon, in computers, icon mean an image, right? Emoji, they are images, right? Some more time, so emoji is Japanese word, I'm sure. I think it's a Japanese word, and this is from the Japanese culture. So we have iconic sensory registers. It's an iconic sensory registers. So there is more time between the end of a presentation of the array and the beginning of a recall. So the poor was, so when they were given, so they conducted an experiment and they were shown different images in a certain sequence. So what they found that they were, the time that they were shown image and the time they were asked to repeat the occurrence of the images or the sequence of the images, the longer the duration between the time they saw and the time they were asked to recall, the poor was their recalling ability. So they were unable to recall in the correct order, right? So that's what they called iconic vision. So when we are seeing, so they are saying when we see, we must repeat or recall that information right after seeing this, because if we take more time and there is a long gap between the time some icon is registered in our senses and the time we use it or recall it, or we try to connect it with in our cognition, so it may not be able to do it because the decay. Remember, we used the word decay in our earlier video. So the decay has happened. It has disappeared. It has lost. It has lost. So that is what they're saying. Iconic vision. So when we see images, and the same thing was what we call echoic. So when they were so these are what we call experiments, and you can do it with your siblings also. You can do it yourself with you as well. You can see how it affects. Right. So the same is echoing. So you might be hearing something, and you heard, and you might heard words in certain order, and then you're asked to repeat the words that you have heard. So again, if it's the time between hearing and recalling is longer, then of course your ability to recall what was said is going to be poor. So the information when we register in a senses should be used. That's what they are saying immediately. Otherwise, this information is going to disappear because of a decaying process. So as we are making information received through sensory register into our what we call perceptions, so it happens because there are two processes. One is bottom-up and the top-down processing. The bottom-up says that the information received, and then information is passed to working memory for comparisons with information in long-term memory to assign meaning. So when we say bottom-up, bottom and up, we receive information and we take it to working memory, and then we see whether this information is going to be put in an already created structure, or we need to create a new structure, right? So what we call a simulation accommodation, that is bottom-up approach. The top-down approaches refers to the influences of our knowledge and beliefs and perception. So top-down is when you win something, you are not viewing as you the object in front of you. So you started um, bringing in your the knowledge that you have in your mind. So you start applying on it immediately, and then what you view and what you decide to decipher from that image, what you try to perceive through image, is actually influenced by your knowledge, what you already have about something. So by doing it, you are going to block some of the information that you should have perceived, right? It is because your earlier knowledge is actually affecting your perception. Right? So that is top down. Um, so we often perceive what we expect and fail to perceive what we do not expect, right? So what we expect, the previous knowledge, we only perceive that. And since there is nothing in our previous knowledge about something, so we are not going to expect it. So these are some of the, okay, everyone knows, I'm just going to recall this one: short-term memory, working memory, long-term memory, unlimited capacity, permanent storage, information activated when cued, right? Episodic memory, remember, this is there, you must have studied in cognitive development, in psychology course, EDUC 120. And then semantic memory, verbal memory, visual memory, right? Information coded as pictures, images, scenes. So all this information is there. But important thing is that all this information is encoded and it is organized, right, in a memory, and then in the form of schemas, right? And then these schemas are further elaborated as we keep receiving more information, or we keep viewing or perceiving information from our surrounding. So the same as we saw the memory, the same is knowledge also. This is there in what we call education psychology course as well. There is declarative knowledge, there is procedural knowledge, and if you want to read this one, then you need to visit foundational knowledge module, and these readings are placed there for you to read it. So declarative knowledge is facts, beliefs, opinions, generalization, theories, hypotheses. You read it in textbook. Procedural knowledge is knowledge of how to perform cognitive activities, how, for example, dissecting experiments, procedural knowledge. Cognitive load is when you are receiving information, and then your cognitive load is the amount of information that you are able to process, that you're able to receive. And this cognitive load is of two types. One is intrinsic cognition, as the extrinsic cognition. So intrinsic cognitive load is dependent upon unalterable properties of the information to be learned, and is eased only when learners acquire an effective cognitive schema to deal with the information. So intrinsic cognitive load is actually take information and is able to store that information or place that information into the already existing schema, which is simulation and accommodation. And this is because the information is immediately taken to the already existed or created schema. So it is possible that you are able to take in lots of information, right? You are able to retrieve and process lots of information. So extrinsic cognitive load is caused by the manner in which the material is presented or the activities required by the learner. So that is how you are presented a certain set of information. You might be reading information, you might be experimenting something, you might be watching a video, might be watching a chart or something. So those are the things that teachers use in classrooms, right? So that is extrinsic cognitive load. And if the information you are reading is something that you cannot manage, because it could be because the information is new, and if the information is new and is not presented as according to make it simpler, or to make it, or to present it in such a way that your cognition makes sense of or can identify a certain pattern, then of course there's going to be an um, extrinsic cognitive overload. So you will not be able to take in information, and since you will not be able to take in information, so there won't be any intrinsic cognitive load there. Okay, so that's the end of this chapter.